Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, over the weekend, especially on Saturday, the Democrat opposition came out in massive numbers. It depends which media outlet you read, but at a bare minimum, in city after city after city, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Democrat protesters came out. The flagship protest was, of course, in St. Paul, Minnesota, where at least 350 to 400,000 poured onto the streets, and in a No Kings rally claiming that Donald Trump is a tyrant, a dictator, a king who now must be toppled from power. And there was a big concert headed by Bruce Springsteen, who sang this protest song, the streets of Minneapolis, commemorating the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. But it wasn't just in St. Paul, Minnesota. You saw it in New York City, in Boston, at the Boston Common. You saw it in L.A., where the riot actually literally descended into a riot. Portland, they began to attack the police. Dallas, it was all over the country. And a couple of things stood out. So here you have together millions of people around the country, hundreds of thousands in certain cities, many of them with the exact same signs. By the way, the signs were almost all brand new. Many of the same people showing up at these protests. So they'd go to one protest in a city and they'd end up in another protest in another city. So what it's clear is that this was very well funded, very well organized, and it is part of an anti-Trump network controlled by the likes of George Soros, but there are others who clearly now are trying to maximize opposition to Trump and to foster division and polarization. And what was weird about this protest, I mean, the size in terms of millions of people, but it was very diverse. What I mean by diverse is many of them were waving transgender flags. Many of them were calling literally for the abolition of ICE. No ICE. That was one of their big slogans. They want to get rid of ICE. They want to reopen the border again to tens and tens of millions of illegals coming in. They don't want any illegals, no matter how violent, dangerous, or criminal, to be deported. This was a show of force on the radical left. Many waved Palestinian flags. Others were championing Hamas and Hezbollah. Many of them went against, were talking in their opposition to the war in Iran. So it was just a whole spectrum of causes and protests all coming together with one objective in mind: to go after Donald Trump, to undermine Trump, and to call for Trump to be toppled. Many of them openly called for the murder of Donald Trump. The media is covering this up, but there were signs, Trump being hung from the gallows, people calling for the death of Donald Trump. This was almost in every protest. It was violent at times. In Portland, it descended into a riot and Portland, a lot came out. I mean, the videos don't lie. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands poured out onto the streets of Portland. Many of them were Antifa. They had the signs of Antifa, the flags of Antifa, and they began to attack police officers as the sun went down. They wore gas masks. They began to pelt the police with rocks, with stones, with bottles. Police officers were punched and kicked. They were assaulted. In Los Angeles, it was a full-blown riot. There were dozens of protests, but the central one was against the DHS detention facility in L.A., where thousands of rampaging anarchists and communists attacked the DHS detention facility They stormed the fence. DHS officials were trying to protect the building from being overrun. And you saw many of these protesters throwing blocks or chunks of cement at DHS officials. Police had to be called in with riot gear. They had to deploy tear gas. And then there were street battles between these terrorist thugs and street activists against the police and DHS. In Dallas, there was a huge protest and then a counter pro-Trump protest. And the police were saying many of the protesters and counter-protesters had guns, they had weapons, and they feared, as the two sides began to call each other names, fistfights broke out, clashes broke out, that it could have descended into out-and-out violence with both sides shooting each other. In New York, and this is the one I want to warn everybody about, there was an army that came out on the streets of New York. Robert De Niro showed up. Letitia James showed up. Everybody showed up. But the Communist Party of the United States, literally, the Communist Party of the United States, joined Democrats. And on the streets, they chanted, "There is only one solution, communist revolution. There is only one solution, communist revolution." And you can see the flags. There was a sea of Soviet hammer and sickle flags. Frankly, I don't think even a demonstration in Russia now, you'll see as many people calling for communism and waving the old Soviet Union hammer and sickle. And so what we saw over the weekend was really now the Democrat coalition. Communists with the hammer and sickle, Antifa, trans, Hamas, Hezbollah, the pro-Palestinian movement, abolish ICE, all of it now coming together in this sick, macabre, perverse, anti-American, frankly anti-Western civilization movement that wants to destroy the United States from within and overthrow President Trump. Now, let me just make a couple more points, and then I want to go, obviously, to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. The first thing that struck me is what a bunch of liars, frauds, and hypocrites all of these so-called protesters are. Because if you really believe that Trump is a tyrant, if you really believe he's a dictator, if you really believe he's quote-unquote a king, then you wouldn't even be protesting, because you'd be afraid to protest. Because let me tell you what happens when you really go up against a dictator or a murderer or a tyrant. Ask the protesters in Iran before this war began. You get gunned down. You get slaughtered by the tens of thousands. And that's why people in Iran are petrified to rise up, as they are in other authoritarian police states. So the fact that they showed up, there were concerts, they were dancing in the streets, whistling that stupid whistle at every protest, blowing their whistles, attacking. They were the ones attacking the police. They were the ones attacking DHS officials. They were the ones rioting. Tells you that they don't believe there's an actual dictatorship or a king or a tyrant. Secondly, President Trump needs to look at this opposition. Yes, a lot of it was full of old liberal boomer women, no question. Overwhelmingly women, I don't know why. Boomers in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. When you look at the big rally in St. Paul, Minnesota, I mean, it was Bernie Sanders, Joan Baez, Bruce Springsteen, and all of them are in their 80s, or in case Springsteen's case, in their late 70s, trying to live, relive the glory days of their hippie years. But underneath it lies the hammer and sickle. Underneath it lies the cry for communist revolution. Underneath it is what's awaiting for Trump and the country should the Democrats take back power in November. And what all of them said is they want no borders and no ICE. Okay, my friends, I want you to listen now. This is some sound that we have of these radical left protesters in this so-called No Kings rallies that took place all across the country over the weekend. One of them, I kid you not, was confronted by counter-demonstrators, and to protect him, the police escorted him away. Basically, they prevented him from potentially being assaulted. And you think he would be a little grateful. No. As he's being escorted away from angry counter-demonstrators and being protected by the police, this is what they're chanting. Roll cut 17, Mike. If you couldn't catch that, it was F the police. So they're not just calling for the abolishment of ICE and open borders, no borders, as they put it, no borders, no ICE, no kings, but they also are calling for defunding the police, many of them calling for abolishing the police. So this is how radical many of these rallies were. Here is leftist protesters. This was in Washington, D.C., where they came out tens and tens of thousands, and it descended not just into a Trump hate fest, but get ICE. Abolish ICE. They don't want them in any sanctuary city, in any blue state, and anywhere in the country. They want ICE out. They want the illegals in. Roll cut 17A, Mike. That's pretty much what they were saying in Boston, at the Boston Common. This is what they were saying, obviously, in New York, in L.A., in Portland, in Chicago, in St. Paul, Minnesota, in Dallas, you name it. Wherever they protested, apparently they protested in over 3,300 locations. This was their third No Kings rally, nationwide rally, in less than a year. And they say that more people turned out this time than in the previous two occasions. So the opposition to Trump on the radical Democrat left, the communist left, is now rising. And many of them now saying that Trump will pay dearly at the polls in November. And once they take back Congress, the House, and the Senate, they're going to impeach him. They're going to destroy him. They're going to arrest conservatives, not just in his administration, but they say they want to arrest conservatives around the country. And many of them are openly calling for the assassination and the murder of Trump. So I have to be honest with you. When you see a sea of red and, the red Soviet hammer and sickle flags, when you hear them chanting, there is only one solution, communist revolution, when you see that in St. Paul, in Boston, in L.A., in Portland, the Democrat Socialists of America were right there as the key organizers of the protests, when you see how many of them are openly calling now for the socialist takeover of the United States, in combination with Hamas, in combination with Hezbollah, it came down to three flags. It was the Soviet hammer and sickle flag, which was everywhere, the Palestinian flag, symbolizing radical Islam, that was everywhere, and the transgender LGBTQ flag, which was everywhere. And that pretty much gives a summation of the movement that is now seeking to topple Trump and really topple America. Now, Maura Healey, Hold It Healey, spoke at the No Kings rally at the Common in Boston. And, well, just listen to her saying Trump is a dictator, Trump is a tyrant, and Trump must go. Roll cut 18, Mike.
What do authoritarians want to do? They want to silence us. They want to numb us out. They want to confuse us and distract us with wars and all sorts of things, right? Don't let that happen. Stay engaged. Keep reading. Keep talking. Keep speaking out and keep talking to one another and keep building community.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. I'm telling you, if your mother didn't tell you, I'm telling you, you're an idiot. But first of all, if he was an actual dictator, you'd all be dead because you wouldn't be allowed to speak out against the dictator. Okay, that's the obvious point. And you know he's not a dictator because none of you, not only were you not afraid, you guys were wearing sunglasses, you guys were carrying signs, you guys were partying on the streets, the whole media was there. Okay, another explosion, really a political orgy of hate over the weekend, this time on Saturday with over 3,000 No Kings rallies all across the country, many of them in key cities descending into full-blown riots, others calling for the assassination and the murder of Trump, all of them demanding the end of ICE, the end of secure borders, and they want this country now completely, totally overrun by illegals, and they vow that if they get power back again in the midterm elections, not only are they going to impeach Trump, they will destroy him and his family, and they will reopen the borders. So, listen now to Maura Healey, Hold It Healey, as one of the headline speakers at the No Kings rally here in Boston at the Common, and she's saying, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that ICE does not arrest violent, criminal, illegal aliens. We're keeping them out of everywhere. They can't go into the schools. They can't go into the daycare centers. They can't go into hospitals. They can't go into courthouses where they try to go, and that's where they nab or try to grab. Many of these people are convicted rapists or murderers or people who are wanted for sex crimes. They're not going to be on state property. We are going to do everything in our power to protect the illegals and to impede ICE until we abolish ICE. Roll cut 18A, Mike.
I'm keeping ICE out of our schools, our daycare centers, our hospitals, our courthouses. And they're not going to be on state property. And don't even think about building a detention center here.
There you go. Yep, that's our esteemed governor. Now, you tell me how this woman survives re-election in November unless they cheat. You think this state wants more illegals? We can't afford more illegals. You think this state wants more crime? You think we want more welfare fraud? You think you want to see us to continue to decline and decline? More taxpayers leave, more investors leave, more businesses leave, more good, decent, law-abiding citizens leave? Soon, I'm not kidding, there are going to be more migrants than taxpayers. And then we're done. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Did you witness any of these No Kings rallies in your neighborhood? There was a big one in Foxborough, about 5 minutes from where I live. So they came out in numbers near my community. I saw them. Grace saw them. And what do you make of the fact that the media is lying, saying that these were peaceful protests when they clearly were not? There were riots. Police were attacked. They had to use tear gas. ICE agents, DHS officials were attacked with chunks of concrete, rocks, bottles in city after city after city. And what they're trying to not show you is the sea of hammer and sickle flags. It reminds me a lot of pre-Bolshevik Russia. The communists are on the march, and now they sense blood. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Victor in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Kuhner, man, it was an interesting weekend, brother. So I'm the Marine on Market Square in Newburyport. I've been there with my Trump signs and flags since 2016. So I decided not to walk around with the Trump signs. I interacted with the and Kuhner, man, let me tell you something. They are a lot older than the average American, but I got to tell you this. I would ask them, just because they thought I was one of them, I would say, hey, with these millions of, immigrants being, deported, there's hundreds of thousands of apartments available for us Americans. And they looked at me like deer in the headlight. I said, there are millions of hospital bills that us taxpayers don't have to pay for. And again, they would look. And then finally I would say, one of them was screaming, oh, the war. I said, the war that's, trying to, kill the people that are killing the Jews. And one of them yells at me, I'm a Jew. I said, well, don't you care that these Iranians are funding the murder of babies, infants, and women and men? And they cannot logically connect the dots. And that, Kuhner, man, is frightful. They are simply, a large part of them are people that are slogan-driven and do not care about the outcome. And then you've got the communists and the socialists and all these other ne'er-do-wells. But it's something that, the regular working people need to organize by email, connect with their friends, counter-protest, get involved, because these people are involved. Like it or not, they're involved.
Well, Victor, it's funny you should say that, because at the one in Foxborough, it was overwhelmingly white. It was very old. I'm not going to say there weren't young people, but it was predominantly, and, to me, I have nothing but the highest respect for the elderly. But what the media is trying to portray is they're trying to portray this as a young, hip, they're all in their 20s and 30s, this authentic grassroots movement. And I'm like, no, it's overwhelmingly 60s, 70s, 80s. They're people, retirement or whatever, about to retire. And they all have beautiful, impeccable signs, which is a bit suspicious. And it's almost like they're trying to relive their hippie days, the 60s. But you're right. They're seething with hatred. A lot of them are women. I don't know why. Elderly, older, liberal, white women. It's bizarre. And they're not rational. When you ask them anything, it's just rage. And, so you want all the illegals to stay? You mean even the murderers, even the rapists, even the pedophiles? Like, don't you care? Don't you realize you're paying for all these people's health care and their public housing and, the welfare? It's $2,000 a month. Do you realize how much money how much of your taxpayer money is going to them? It's not going to you. And all they do is shout fascist. Fascist, white. It's like having a conversation with Bill in Sudbury or Chris in Gloucester. I'm not kidding. It's fascist. It's white supremacist. It's Nazi. It makes no sense whatsoever. But let me tell you what's different, Victor. You tell me if you agree or disagree. They're so blinded by their rage and hatred at Trump and all things Trump that they're okay with the communist revolution. They love Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, was the headline speaker in St. Paul, Minnesota. They love Zoran Mamdani. They love Elizabeth Warren. They love Ayanna Pressley. I can play you cuts of Ayanna Pressley. She literally is now calling for the socialist overthrow of the United States. They love Ilhan Omar. In other words, every major figure now on the radical left, they love, they embrace. And I'm like, have you forgotten the fall of the Berlin Wall? Have you forgotten the collapse of communism? Have you forgotten the Cold War? Have you forgotten what communism does in every society around the world? Hell, look at what they've done already now to New York and Minnesota and California, and what they're doing here in Massachusetts. Like, are you people blind? Victor, they don't care. It's frightening. It really is frightening. Victor, please hang on. I want to take you on the other side. And I want to ask you, did you see communist signs, communist slogans? There were so many in New York, so many in Los Angeles, so many in Portland. And did you see the signs calling for the murder and assassination of Trump? Because that's another thing the media is trying to cover up. Okay, my friends, the best way to listen to the Kuhner Report is on the iHeartRadio app, and now we're launching something brand new, Kuhner's Talk Back Tit for Tat. Just look for the red microphone in the upper right corner of the app, leave a message for me, for Sandy, and yes, for Mike. Agree, disagree, respond, react, anything. Leave your talkbacks anytime during the week, and every Monday in the final segment, we will play the best ones on the air. So download the iHeart app, hit that red mic, and join Kuhner's Talkback Tit for Tat. And today, at 9:43, will be the first one. That's right, first one today. Okay, let's go back to Victor in Georgetown. He was at one of these No Kings rallies. He interacted with some of these so-called protesters and activists. And Victor, the question I have for you, they leave behind their calling cards. They left them in New York. They left them in L.A., in Portland, many places. The communist hammer and sickle was prevalent, and the Antifa sign, the anarchist sign, the A in a circle. Did you see any of that at the rally that you were at, that you witnessed? And how prevalent many of the members of the Communist USA Party are marching alongside Democrats? Did you see any of that at the rally you were attending or you were witnessing on Saturday?
Jeff, what I saw mostly were no dictators, your basic socialist attitudes. And you made a comment. You said it's all because they hate Trump. I see it from a little bit different angle. I see that they hate what Trump represents. And what he represents is a change from what this tribe, this is no more than a tribe of people. Don't confuse me with the facts. This is our tribe. Don't say, and that's why they go ballistic when you introduce any information that is contrary to their beliefs, like Jim Jones in Guyana, where they they killed 900 people, women feeding poison to their babies. These people are brainwashed. Now, as a helicopter crew chief in Vietnam, because you were, subjected to being out, and captured, they gave you a course in brainwashing and what to expect. And what they do is they start with a very gradual gem of information that sounds right, it feels right, it is wrong, but they get you to agree with it. And these people, Jeff, for 40, 50 years have been listening to these well-spoken, perfectly, coiffed people on TV that are telling them that socialism is really good. You asked the question, have they forgot about the Berlin Wall, where the communists would shoot dead people trying to get to freedom? Jeff, yes, they have. They have completely forgot that. These people live in la-la land. They are not the type of people that have made America great. They are the people that have gone along, collected a check, especially government checks, And you say Healy has something to worry about? No, Healy has nothing to worry about at all because she's the leader of this freaking tribe. And what's frightful is if us American working people do not organize and do the simple things that these people have done, it could be massive trouble just down the road.
Oh, I agree. Victor, I so agree. With everything. I agree, not 100, 1,000%. And that's why I'm trying to tell people, don't please, I understand winning 2024 was huge, but they're coming back now. They are coming back, and they're going not just for Trump's throat, they're going for our throat. Remember what Trump famously said, no truer words were ever spoken. They're not really after me. I mean, yeah, they're after me, but they're really after you. I'm just in the way. And that you clearly saw on Saturday. 617-266-6868. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Well, Jeff, for many years I've said to you that they're organized and we're disorganized. Talk is never going to get it done. While we've been talking and talking, and they've been controlling everything, we've done nothing about it. January 6th in 2020, people went up to the Capitol marching peacefully, unarmed, and the only thing they carried was the American flag and the spirit of America. And they were terrorized by FBI, by Antifa, by Black Lives Matter, and they were the victims. And for being victims, they were put in jail because they called it anarchy. When we had a chance to expose it, they destroyed all the evidence. But these printing companies, I warned you about printing companies way back when I said they're the ones who print ballots for all elections. I used to be involved in that, and that's why I know about it. So if they print ballots, they print all these signs. Before any of these riots happen, the vans and the trucks, they all show up way ahead of time, or they meet them a little ways out, and they hand off all these brand new signs and they're all the same. They're all printed by the same company, and they know who pays for this. They're paid for by the Chinese Communist Party is supporting this. That's why it disgusts me every time I hear Trump say, oh, Xi Jinping is a friend of mine. He's no friend of America, and I don't know why he's going to China. And I don't know why he's not talking about what's going on in this country today. You can't ignore a problem like this. Everything that's going on today, and by the way, you can openly say now, there's no sense in calling these fascist, left-wing fanatics. They're the Democratic Party, but they're not. They're the American Communist Party. That's what we should name them. And we have to get rid of this propaganda machine known as the media, because that's a huge weapon. It was an important weapon in every fascist communist revolution, from the Nazis to the Japanese to the Russians, everywhere. That's what you need that to begin with. And, the Nazis didn't start off strong. Hitler didn't start off strong. He started off with a few defeats, but he got stronger and stronger as time went on, because he kept repeating the same. And he told the world what he was going to do. These people are telling us what they're going to do. And what are we doing about it? Nothing. We're doing the same thing we did 20 years ago. We're talking about it. Talking about it. Talk isn't going to save this country. And Trump's not doing anything about it. He needs to turn around and get troops back here. We need to win this war in Iran, because after listening to the Shah's son speak, it was inspiring to hope that he would be the person that's installed in Iran, and he keeps the promises that he made. It would be such a great thing for this country and the world and the Middle East. But that just aside for a moment. But we need to win that war, but we need to come back and take care of the problem in this country. These people have grown and grown and grown. The illegals have been growing here for 20 years. That's just the ones that came in, never the ones that have had babies and they've grown up. and they've been brainwashed. You know, in all these countries that hate us, they're taught that from when they walk into school as a kid. Death to America, death to America. And what have we done in our schools? I remember when I came to America in 1950, we pledged allegiance. We sang "My Country 'Tis of Thee." We read from the Bible. We heard the 23rd Psalm. And what have the people who hate America have been doing for the last 50 years? No more pledge allegiance to the flag. No more prayer in America. No more good things that made America great. Get rid of all of that. Everything that these people want to do is because they hate America and they hate what America stands for. They don't belong here, and even the ones who are born here. When you talk like that, and you go out there and you fly the communist flag, then you should be thrown out of this country. That's total anarchy, and nobody's doing anything about it. It's being broadcast on TV and the news like it's a positive thing. I mean, it sickens me to see that these kind of people aren't thrown in jail. And look at the Congress. They're made up of third world people. No wonder we don't get anything done. Look at the mayors of all these cities. They're all third world. And look what they turned our cities into. They turned them into disaster.
Yeah, third world hellholes. No, you're on point. I'm telling you, you're completely on point. By the way, and Congress is now, they're on vacation. I swear, you can't make this up, Arthur. Congress is on vacation. So the communists are marching, the anarchists are marching all across the country, and these guys, they didn't even pass a bill to fund DHS. You know why the TSA agents are getting paid? It's because Trump signed an executive order. If Trump had not signed that executive order, what was it, Thursday or Friday? The TSA agents still would be going without a paycheck. So, in the middle of a war, okay, whatever you feel about the war, I'm just stating something objectively. In the middle of a war, our Department of Homeland Security is not being funded. Our Coast Guard, no money. FEMA, no money. ICE, Customs and Border Protection, no money. Airport security, airline security, no money. And these clowns, and that's the other thing, I said this to Grace, they went on vacation, what was it, on Friday or Saturday or whatever, and they're going, well, it's Easter vacation. I go, what Easter? It's Palm Sunday. Easter is next week. It's next Sunday. Or now, today's Monday, so this Sunday. So, you guys, so this is Palm Sunday vacation. So and by the way, Arthur, honestly, you're completely right. And not only do they not recognize the threat or poo-poo it and act like it's nothing, but how many freaking vacations does Congress have to take? Every time I look at them, they're on recess. It's Christmas break. It's spring break. It's Easter break. It's summer break. It's fall break. It's Thanksgiving break. Meanwhile, the country is burning. I don't know what else to tell you. The SAVE Act is in limbo. It looks like they're not going to get that passed. And now they can't. Department of Homeland Security, at least until mid-April, is not going to be funded. In the middle of a war. There you go. That pretty much says it all. 617-266-6868 is the number. As always, thank you for that call, Arthur. Okay, listen now to Mamdani. Mamdani was at a press conference. It was his people that took to the streets up in New York over the weekend, calling for no borders, no ICE, no kings. That was one of their slogans. Another one, and remember, New York, there were a lot of hammer and sickles. Lot of red hammer and sickle flags. There's only one solution, communist revolution. They've now been inspired by Mamdani. They have an Islamo-communist as the mayor, and more of these radical left freaks, kooks, are coming out of the woodwork. Listen now to Zoran Mamdani. telling now the people of New York at a press conference openly, ICE must be abolished. Period. No deportations, illegals, all of them stay, and essentially no ICE, no borders. We want to return to what we saw under the Biden era. Roll cut 14, Mike.
I believe that ICE is a rogue agency. It's a reckless one. It's one that delivers nothing towards the furthering of the cause of public safety. And I've also been public about my belief that ICE is an entity that should be abolished. And that is critically important in our city, where we've seen too many New Yorkers living in fear of even going to what would otherwise be routine immigration check-ins.
You want to see how, by the way, so removing, literally, I'm not kidding, removing gangbangers, murderers, rapists, drug dealers, sex traffickers, child molesters, that doesn't improve the safety of the community, Zoran? No? I guess not, huh? No? Now, in L.A., one of the speakers, this is before they rioted, one of the speakers born in the United States, apparently of Japanese descent and Latino descent, so a mixture of, whatever, Asian and Latino or Japanese and Latino. And he gives this speech, and he's crying. Okay, this is a man pushing 50. He's cracking up. He's starting to crack up. He's crying because he says he's now so afraid of ICE. Listen to this. That he keeps his birth certificate in his car and he carries his passport with him if he goes to the gas station, to the grocery store, to the cleaners. He just leaves his house. He takes his passport because he says that ICE, he fears every day that ICE is going to arrest him, detain him, and deport him, even though he's an American citizen. I mean, a natural born American citizen. And I'm looking at this video of him, and he's bawling his eyes out. And the crowd is getting all whipped up like, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. And I'm like, what American citizen has been deported? What are you talking about? You're so terrorized by the media propaganda, by the lies about ICE, that, I believe the guy. You look at him, he's an emotional mess. That you have your birth certificate in your car and you're clutching your passport wherever you go. And he says he's looking left and he's looking right. Like ICE is everywhere. They're in the grocery store. They're in the cleaners. They're on the side of the road. They're in the movie theater. They're wherever, no matter where. They could grab you at any moment. Any moment. Like it's the SS or the Stasi or the KGB. And then just before you know it, you're in El Salvador. You've been deported to a prison and there's nothing you can do. Ay. That level of fear-mongering, that level of panic porn, that level of absolute hysteria and paranoia, I got to give the media, the fake news media propaganda machine their due. When they know how to whip up people's emotions and scare the living daylights out of them, nobody does it better. It's to the point now you have these Democrats, they're afraid of their own shadow. 617, everyone's going to be deported. 617-266-6868. Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome. Verna? All right, let's see if we can return to Verna. Who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mark.
We're 48 hours removed from yet our third No Kings protest in less than a year. And guess who's still the President of the United States? Jeff, there is nothing real, legitimate, or organic about any of these No King protests anywhere in this country, and I'll tell you why. Yesterday on social media, Jeff, I saw so many posts of Craigslist applications signing up to be a protester, how much you would get paid, where to get your signs, when you will get paid, when the protest is over, and so on, and so on, and so on. Speaking of getting paid, I would love to know who the person was that contacted Robert freaking De Niro to be the Grand Marshal and hold that communist banner walking down the street, because you know, Jeff, as well as I do, that scumbag didn't do it for nothing, okay? There's no way in this world he did it for free.
Oh, that's true. No, he does everything. Everything with him is a buck. Everything.
And not only that, Jeff, talk about a waste of taxpayers' money and calling Trump a king and a dictator. You got to do this 3 times in less than a year. And yet you're not in prison and you're not facing execution, or you're not dead on the street because you did it 3 times already. So there is no king. And number 2, this has got to be the biggest waste of taxpayer money on the stupidest protest I've ever seen in my life. You're wasting resources of the city and state with police details, emergency details, EMT details, for what? For thousands of people to act like freaking idiots, because I've seen so many videos yesterday of people infiltrating these morons, asking them, why are you here? And they could not answer the question.
You know, I so agree with you. It is such a waste of time, energy, money, and over what? I mean, what did all this accomplish? Nothing. 617-266-6868 is the number. So Mike and I were just talking off air, and he thinks everybody that showed up at that No Kings rally is a loser. He goes, Jeff, don't they have anything better to do on a Saturday? Don't they have friends? Don't they have family? Whatever. Watch the game. Be with your grandkids. Take a walk. I mean, whatever. Go shopping. There's a million to read a book. Go see a movie. There's a million things to do. He says, no, they got to show up with their stupid signs. And he's like, it's like screaming into the void. And he goes like, what do you think you're proving? And he's completely right. Mike is 1,000% correct. And then I look at this, Jane Fonda, Hanoi Jane, and she's in St. Paul, Minnesota, along with the boss, Bruce Springsteen, who looks more shriveled up than ever before. By the way, his voice is gone. He sounds like hell. Okay, that whatever voice he had, it is gone. This guy has torched his vocal cords. And there he is singing, giving this concert for the radical left for free because nobody wants to pay to see him sing anymore. And there's Jane Fonda, Hanoi Jane, who was the #1 propaganda prop for the Vietnamese communist regime. By the way, one of the most brutal, you want to talk about kings and dictators? One of the most brutal totalitarian regimes in history. And by the way, she called for the North Vietnamese to win. Be very clear about this. She didn't just call for them to shoot down our airmen and our planes and posting with one of their, anti-aircraft guns, famously. But she called for the victory of the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese communists in Vietnam. So she's going to lecture us about no kings and no dictators and no tyrants after all she's done to prop up the most vicious, murderous, genocidal tyrants in history? Okay, but let that go. Okay, let all that go. I want to ask all of you this. What do you make of the No Kings rallies? As Mark in Medford rightly pointed out, it's the third one now in less than a year. Are they having an impact? Are they moving public opinion in any way, shape, or form? Do you think this symbolizes now where the energy on the left is and the energy on the Democratic Party? Or do you think they're just making fools of themselves? As Mike says, they're losers. And they're yelling into the void, screaming into the void. But in the end, it's all sound and fury, signifying nothing. 617-266-6868 is the number. Joe in, Verna, we got her back. Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome.
Hey, hi there. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning to all of you. I was really surprised. I was out early on Saturday and came back into Arlington, which is where I live. And all of a sudden, there's hundreds of people with signs up all over Arlington Center. I wasn't even aware of what was going on, and I was just shocked and surprised. And, no kings, all of that. And then one that I saw, dump Trump. There were children. There were people of all ages, but there were hundreds of people swarming around. And it was just really weird to see that. And so, anyway, I just wanted to share that experience. So it was a lot of people out there. So,
Verna, do you think they were bussed in, or do you think these are genuinely people from your area?
That I can't really say. They look like they were people from the area, but I can't really say because I didn't mingle. I was just in the car and basically driving through. It took a while to get through. We also had local elections here in Arlington, and there were a lot of people going out to the elections, too, on Saturday.
Now, Verna, I'm just curious. When you see them with their F Trump, I saw a lot of F Trump signs. You see them with their no ICE, abolish ICE, trans rights are human rights. What transgenderism has to do with no kings, I don't know. Their Palestinian flags, their pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah flags, the communist hammer and sickle. Antifa, of course, was out in big numbers, especially in Portland, but elsewhere, L.A. When you see them, this motley crew, and all of the radical left kooky positions, really the far left Marxist positions that they hold, and you look at yourself and you say, this is the Democratic coalition. I mean, it really is. Are people actually going to vote for that? No, really, I'm being serious. Do they want to support jihadists like Mamdani? Do they want to support communists? Take over private property, take over all your money, have government control every aspect of your life, literally jail your opponents. They're openly calling now for the arrest of conservatives should they take back the White House in 2028. To defund ICE, to abolish ICE, to reopen the borders, to have illegals continue to flood our country. Do people really want that? Well, what say you, Verna?
I don't think so. I don't think they really know. I think they're just indoctrinated. They're manipulated. They've been controlled. I lived in the Soviet Union for 3 years, as I've shared before. I did some college time there. My father was an old commie here in the country, in America. And, you can smell a rat coming. You can smell this.
Oh, it's coming. No, I'm telling you, it's coming. So, please, America, be warned. Okay, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470-70470. Jeff, remember the good old days when you would go to your grandparents' house, grandma was baking cookies, and grandpa was sitting in his easy chair enjoying his newspaper with a good old crossword puzzle. Not these days, Kuhner Man. The wholesome days of Norman Rockwell are long gone, my friend. Now it's all about personal regression, arrested development. Grandma is out in the streets spewing hate and vitriol and trying to work out her, quote, man-hate issues. And Grandpa is out there with his printed sign and Birkenstock shoes trying to show the world how, quote, hip and with it he still is in his geriatric years. Jeff, there's no fool like an old fool. And unfortunately, in Trump's America, there is no shortage of old fools. Well, that's what I thought when I saw many of these crazy liberals out there. Here, I mean, now, this wasn't in my area. This wasn't in Foxborough. But here, I'm looking at a video right now. This was in Seattle. Okay, big protest. They got a socialist mayor, just like Mamdani. Absolute socialist mayor. Her name is Katie Wilson, far left. A sanctuary city, no ICE, no borders, defund the police, you know the whole thing. And it's weird. You have these No Kings protesters parading this guy who is like a Trump lookalike. You know, he's got the Trump jacket and tie, he's wearing a crown, but he's in diapers. I swear to you, he's in diapers. He's a grown man in diapers. In the freezing cold. And he's just like walking around, making a fool of himself, and they're parading him. It has a circus clown-like quality to it. This is your so-called resistance? You know, and as Mike said to me, like, what is all this for? You're making fools of yourselves. First of all, many of these protesters are paid. Paid. Okay, so these aren't real protesters. Some. You have others who are, old white people, essentially, liberal old white people, ex-hippies, and I guess this is their last kick at the can. To go out on, a street power and relive their youth. But, Mike made a really good point to me when, we were off air. He said, Jeff, what do they think they're accomplishing with this? I mean, if you're a Democrat or you're an anti-Trumper, you're going to vote against Trump in the midterm elections. Like, it's not as if, because of this No Kings rally, suddenly now more people are going to vote against Trump. No. So what is the point of all this? Except to sow more hatred, more division, more chaos, and I think to delegitimize Trump. They're protesting against a duly elected, democratically elected president of the United States. How can he be a king? He was democratically elected. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Joe in South Boston. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Joe.
I did see some signs and people marching. I was in Easton yesterday, and there was 30, 40 people on the street. But I saw some American flags, and I wanted to beep, but I'm saying I don't want the other side to think I was beeping for them. I'm getting tired of not seeing anyone going to jail or going to trial. And, I'm sick and tired of seeing the Congress fighting over this and that not getting anywhere. It's just a talking thing. Everyone's talking, but no one's doing anything. Look at the first term of Trump. How many of the staff members went to jail, drained all their money? They lost their house, their car, they were divorced, everything. Their life was ruined. The January 6 people, they were put in prison in solitary confinement. They were tortured. And we don't do anything. We don't do anything. What the hell? And then we lose an election down in Florida in Trump's district. What's going on here?
Well, our side has become complacent. And I don't think our side and I'm not saying this to be critical, but I don't think our side fully understands the enemy we're up against. And so we're distracted. We're trying to, work, get to work, pay our bills, raise our families. Cost of living is high. It just is. And, you're just struggling to make ends meet. And the other side is being funded by these billionaires, these socialist billionaires, and by foreign powers. People forget that. A lot of this is Chinese communist money. The CCP is pushing this very hard. Very, very hard. This is well documented. Why? Because they want to subvert us from within. Remember, the people on the streets now were the people out on the streets in favor of the North Vietnamese communists in the late 60s and early 70s. They openly said, they go, we're not anti-war. We're not like some of these peaceniks. No, we're not anti-war. We're for the other side. Meaning we want the Viet Cong and the communists to win against our troops, against the United States. So they're for the other side now, whether it's Iran or now China. So, that's a lot of it. So they're much better funded than we are. They're much better organized than we are. And I think Arthur and Chestnut Hill really nailed it. Believe them. Believe them, like all fanatics, like all zealots. Believe them when they say what they're going to do. Because they're not playing around. The one thing about the left, they don't play around. They're very serious. They're deadly serious about their politics. So, and I don't think our side fully grasps what we're up against, and God forbid should they win back power in November, what they're going to do. And they don't just want to impeach Trump. They want to kill him. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. They want him dead. That's why in all these protests, you see Trump hanging from a noose. They're calling for his death. They're calling for his assassination. So they want the Democrats to politically destroy him. Impeachment after impeachment after impeachment, trial after trial after trial, indictment after indictment after indictment. They're going to go after his business. They're going to go after his family. And they're going to go after his cabinet and his supporters. You can take that to the bank. So, no, I'm telling you, he cannot lose the midterm elections. Because if he does, it's going to be political civil war. And, that's, the left understands he is their obstacle to complete power. And now they want him and the MAGA movement gone. Okay, let me ask you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Have you ever participated in a protest? I'm not saying no kings. Could be a Kuhner Country rally, a pro-Trump rally, an anti-Trump rally, whatever. Have you ever been at or participated in a protest? I'm just curious. Have you ever felt the need to go out and so voice your support or opposition that you went and, took a Saturday or whatever it may be, a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, and actually went to a demonstration or a protest? You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, A, yes, B, no. Obviously, I've been involved in many protests. I've organized the protests. I've been the MC, the main speaker at the protest, the headline speaker. So, yeah, I've been involved in more than my share of protests over the years. But I want to hear from you. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Larry on Messenger makes a really, really good point. Look, to me, I think there's something very noble about a protest, that you feel so strongly about it, that you want to go out with fellow citizens, people who believe in the cause, and let others be aware of it and voice your disapproval or your support, whatever it may be, and to try to galvanize public opinion, to try to rally people to wake up, to realize what's at stake and what it means for your community or your state or your country. But I think Larry hit the nail on the head. The reason why I'm so contemptuous of the No Kings rallies, it's exactly as the way Larry phrased it. Jeff, can you imagine spending not one, because this is their third protest now, third rally in less than a year. Can you imagine spending not one, but 3 weekends protesting something that doesn't exist and won't ever come to fruition? It's like, how do I say this? It's like, protesting that the sky is going to turn purple. It's not turning purple. It's never going to turn purple. You're protesting a delusion, a hysterical, panic-ridden, media Democrat-induced, manipulative delusion. Why? That's what I almost feel sorry for them. That, when you see them, no ICE, it's going to deport me, it'll deport you. Oh my God, fascism, it's a dictatorship, we're all going to die. Calm down. Nothing is good. We had one term with Trump. Everything turned out okay. You're going to have the elections in November. Relax. There's no tyranny, no authoritarianism, no fascism, no dictatorship. Have a drink. Calm down. Everything's going to be okay. Okay? So I almost feel sorry for him that they believe this garbage. But apparently, well, some are paid. You can obviously see that. They want to swell the numbers by paying protesters. So the media covers it. The one in Philadelphia, I don't know if you saw the one in Philadelphia, that was a big crowd. But half of them were paid. But and notice they're doing a lot of aerial shots. Why are they doing aerial shots? Why don't they go down there and, really see people's faces? Because here's the dirty secret, and I don't know why. But it's everywhere. People are commenting on this. I noticed it in Foxborough. There's no black people. Literally, there's no black people. You'll see one or two Latinos, one or two Hispanics, one or two Asians, a little here, a little there. It is so overwhelmingly white. And as I said, generally older, very liberal, far moonbat, white, and women, heavily women, older, elderly women. And by the way, white is not the base of the Democratic Party. I mean, it just isn't. By their own self-definition, they call themselves a rainbow coalition. So you're looking at, so the reason why they don't want you to see up close is it's not diverse. It's the exact opposite of being diverse. And half of them are paid. But the reason why they have these shots of these big crowds is that then the media says, oh, look how many people turned out in Philadelphia. Oh, in Baltimore. Oh, in Boston. Oh, in New York. Look at these numbers in Minnesota. Look at these numbers in Portland. So it gives the impression, oh my God, everybody and his uncle is against Trump. The whole country's against Trump. Look at their millions are marching everywhere. And, he's going to be a dictator. Oh, no, we got to check him in November. We've got to vote Democrat, even though it'll kill us. So that's part of the propaganda. Make the numbers seem much bigger than what they are. Hide the fact that there's hammer and sickles everywhere, communist flags everywhere, And for whatever reason, there are no black people. Now, my question to you, on top of everything else, in all seriousness, why do you think there aren't any blacks? And very few minorities. Very few. People even commented this during the anti-ICE riots in Minnesota. It's over. Again, everyone said, well, you're doing it to protect illegals. Many of the illegals in Minneapolis and St. Paul are Somalis or Africans, or they come, say, from, I don't know, Nicaragua or, from Latin America. But I don't see one Latino or one black person protesting. There's not one Somali protesting. It's all elderly white liberals. It's weird. The whole thing is weird. Am I wrong? 617-266-6868. Rob in North Andover. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Rob?
I'm confused. You stole my thunder with the guy with the diaper. I have a lot of very close friends that are liberals, and to see them standing. First of all, and I know I'm going to repeat a lot of what's been said. No kings. If there were no kings, they wouldn't be allowed to have this. It's just common. The common sense is just completely missing. And I have some very intelligent friends, lawyers, nurses, blah, blah, blah. And they're standing, wasting a Saturday. I don't know for what reason. Can someone please tell me what the goal is, what they're trying to do? Why are they wasting 6-8 hours of their day traveling for something that doesn't... I can't comprehend what they're doing, Jeff. Can you please help me?
Rob, honestly, I'll be brutally honest with you. I'm not trying to be dismissive of these people. I'm just calling it the way I see it. It's therapy. No, it really is. To get in a car or whatever, a bus, whatever they do, take hours out of your day to travel, to drive there. Then you meet fellow moonbats and you rage. You yell, you scream, you shout, you vent. And you should see a lot of it is just pure hatred. Nah, and they just go crazy. Fantasize about killing him, fantasize about murdering him, fantasize about murdering ICE agents. And it's like, get it out of your system, get it out of your system, get it out of your system, get it out of your system. It's like talking to a therapist. You just get it all out of you. And this feeling, this sense that, yes, we're supporting one another. It's like an emotional support group. It's very bizarre. It's driven by hatred, which is very bad. No matter what. Doesn't matter. I'm not just talking politics. Anything in life. If hate is what's driving you, the result is never good. And you become miserable. Hate is corrosive. I don't want to get too religious now, but yesterday was Palm Sunday. And one of the things that, is central to the Christian message, and people know this instinctively, hate is corrosive for the soul. It eats you up. In a way, when Jesus says forgive, turn the other cheek, it's not just, a better way to treat people. Literally, what he's trying to say is, it's not good for you. Like, when you're hating someone, well, then you're miserable all day. You're just full of hate and anger and frustration and bitterness. Like, that's no way to live. In a way, you're in the thralls of the devil. Because look at you. You could be happy, you could be content, you could be doing so many things, but instead you're just full of rage. Well, who's won? The devil has won. So anyway, I don't want to turn this into Sunday, but I'm just saying, so it's coming from hate. It's coming from rage. It's coming from contempt. It's coming from fear. It's coming from paranoia. See, this is where I really blame the media. The media has really done a number, a real number. They have convinced these people that's why I spoke about that guy. He's born in the United States. So I guess a Japanese parent and a Latino parent. And, born and raised in the United States. There's no way in hell this guy's getting deported. And on the 1 in 1 billion chance that he does get deported, he's going to be returned within 24 hours, and he's going to have the mother of all lawsuits. The government's going to shell out hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. The guy's going to be one of the wealthiest men on the planet. A, it won't happen, but B, if by some, lightning strikes and it happens, you've just won the greatest lawsuit ever. So nothing is going to happen to this man. Nothing. It's like me telling you, I live in fear. Why, Jeff? I think ICE is going to deport me. Why would ICE deport you? Well, I came from Canada. Okay. You did it legally? Yeah. You're naturalized? Yeah. No one's touching you, dude. This guy, it's even better. He was born here. He's not even naturalized, like me. And he says he's got his birth certificate in the car at all times. His passport, it never leaves him. And that he's going into the grocery store and he's like on the aisle. He's like, is that an ICE agent? Is that an ICE agent? He's driving. Is that an ICE agent? Is that an ICE agent? And he's bawling. He's talking to the crowd. You got to see it. He's like crying that he lives in fear that he's going to be deported. If they arrest you, you got a mother lawsuit. If they jail you, you've got a mother lawsuit. If they deport you, you have the mother of all lawsuits. This is insane. It's akin to me if I said to you, there's a witch haunting me wherever I go. You'd say, Jeff, you need help, dude. No, I can't. I'm afraid. I'm driving. I see a witch. I'm at the grocery store. I'm at the movies. I'm walking in the park with Rocky. I'm taking my dog out. It's a witch. It's a witch. I see a witch. I see a witch. You'd say, dude, you're paranoid. Like you got mental health issues. And as he's saying this, they're all nodding in agreement. It's a huge crowd in LA. And they're all like, yeah, we're scared too. We're petrified. We're petrified. The only thing I can compare it to is COVID, where they just did such a number on people that they're wearing masks alone in their own car. That they're just taking jab after jab after jab after jab. I could go on and on. So the media has so petrified, so propagandized, so brainwashed these people into thinking that they're living in a fascist state, that ICE is the new Gestapo, and that they can kick people's door downs and arrest them and disappear them at any second. And then the Democrats repeat it cynically. They know it's a bald-faced lie, but it doesn't matter. Newsom repeats it. Healy repeats it. Waltz repeats it. Mamdani repeats it. Jeffries, Schumer, they just keep repeating it. So the media repeats it, Democrats repeat it. Media repeats it, Democrats repeat it. So it becomes like an echo chamber. And now you have lunatics running around the country thinking that, they're going to be deported at any second. And all of it to keep violent, criminal, illegal aliens from being deported. Because the Democrats know if the illegals are out, they're finished. I've never seen anything like this. But let me just conclude by saying this. When you look at reels of the Nazis, since they love to talk about Nazis, when you look at the crowd and you see them with their Zig Heil, Zig Heil, Zig Heil, their blind, fanatical loyalty to the Fuhrer, and they believe all the lies spewing out of his mouth, and that the crowd is so afraid, the phantom Jews everywhere, the Jewish menace. On the left, on the right, up, down, wherever you look, there's the Jew, the Jew, the Jew, the Jew. And like, what are the Jews doing to you? Nothing. Like, what's your problem? And we say smugly, this could never happen here. Oh, it can happen here. That level of propaganda, that level of manipulation, that level of indoctrination, that level of panic porn and fear-mongering, we're seeing it again right in front of our eyes. It's a very scary thing. They're mentally unwell. But it's a giant therapy session. I'm telling you, that's what it is. And they're going to do many more. And by the way, if you read them when they're interviewed, they feel better after having come. It's like, when someone says, I went to see my therapist. Oh, I feel better. Well, why do you feel better? I just got it out of my system. And then it gets pent up again and pent up, and they have to go and do it again. It's psychotic. You're watching national collective psychosis. That's what the No Kings phenomenon is. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Hello?
Bob, go ahead, my friend.
Hello, Jeff.
Bob, go ahead. Bob?
Yeah.
You're on the air. Go ahead, Bob. Okay, we lost Bob. Rich in Boston. Thanks for holding, Rich, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you, Rich?
I cannot complain. I just want to say kudos to you and your crew. We need more voices of truth and freedom. I don't want to get into it too much. I've been to quite a few of your rallies, but I'm not going to go anymore unless you send me a check.
Rich, say what you want about Kuhner country rallies, but man, that's really grassroots, we're the opposite of AstroTurf. You know what I mean, Rich? Rich, what do you make of these No Kings rallies?
Well, what do they call the media? Are they the Fourth Estate? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, okay. In theory, yes, the Fourth Estate.
Yeah, the Fourth Estate. So now, I'm a local guy from Boston, and I like to know what's going on around me, just to beware. That's how kooky it's getting in our lovely city, and how quickly people forget that, Massachusetts was key in getting away from the British Crown. So where they're getting this No King stuff from, whatever they're smoking, I don't want any. And, I see it in the Fourth Estate, they're saying, there was 100,000 people on the Commons yesterday. And then they changed their tune, and it was like tens of thousands. So, whoever invented the TV brick, it looks like a brick and it's made out of rubber. I almost threw out my shoulder yesterday when Hold It got up on the stage. And if people are smart,
No, you're completely right. Look, they said 100,000, then they said tens of thousands, then they said maybe 10,000. Okay, President Trump yesterday having some fun with the moon bats, all those moon bats that attended the No Kings rallies. This is what he wrote on Truth Social. A huge thank you to all the quote-unquote No Kings protesters yesterday. I was very concerned a king was trying to take my place. But thanks to your tireless efforts, I am, and this is all in caps, I am still your president! Exclamation point. Great job, all. With a little American flag emoji right beside it. And you should see the response online, the Moonbats. All these liberal heads are exploding. You're not taking us seriously. You got to be out there. It's hilarious. You should be showing leadership, reflection. Why are we on the streets? It should be bothering you. Whew. I thought a king wanted my job. Whoa, thanks, guys. Thanks. 617-266-6868. Dan in North Andover. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
From another mother. You
Dan,
stole
how
my
are you,
thunder,
man?
Jeff. You stole my thunder. I was just going to read that on the air, the Trump truth. I loved it. So, Jeff, you know I have some fun with these people, right? Like a couple of months ago at the ICE rallies, this guy holding a sign, ICE is evil. And I just told him, hey, just wait a month. The ICE will be gone. It's warming up. I said, if you're having trouble driving on it, get yourself a Subaru like her. You'll be fine. So I'm over in Beverly, Salem on Saturday morning. And pull up. There's a guy carrying a No King sign on his way to a rally. So I pulled over and I said, what are you all worked up about the Kings for? I said, the Bruins beat him in overtime 2 weeks ago, and we're not scheduled to play him again this year. He's looking at me like I got four heads, Jeff. They have no clue. No clue. It's a sad world, but you know something? Did you see Maura Healey, the footage of Maura Healey at the Common?
Oh, she looked really tough, Dan.
Screaming like a banshee. That's her Howard Dean moment. If these guys running against her don't clip that and play that in their ads over and over again, screaming like a banshee. Honestly, if that doesn't get them over the line, they're not playing the game right.
Well, Dan, she looks unhinged. You're right. That's her Howard Dean moment. She sounds and looks deranged. And Dan, I've got to ask you this. You were in Beverly. You witnessed some of the No Kings, at least one of the No Kings protests. How do these people strike you? In all seriousness, are they paid? Do they really believe this garbage? And what do you explain this phenomenon? I mean, it's now three of these rallies in less than a year. What do they hope to accomplish? Or is this really just a giant therapy session? Go out there, yell, scream, shout, get it out of your system, you feel better, and then go home. I mean, how do you read this movement?
Jeff, it's and I don't want to offend anybody, but I don't mind offending people. You know that. I'm even say that. But hey, it looks like they've let people out of the nursing homes to go do these rallies. They're old, Jeff. They're all old people. Now, I'm an old guy, Jeff. I'm 61. I'm out there. I feel like a kid. The guy holding the ICE sign was definitely in his 80s. The guy holding the No King sign was probably 75 years old, walking to a rally. Now, Saturday morning, it wasn't warm, Jeff. These people are going out standing in the cold. I try to tell my mother, stay in when it's cold.
Why do you think it's elderly liberals that are going to these rallies, as you put it, in the freezing cold? Like, what do you think accounts for this?
Jeff, it's definitely something strange. If they're not getting paid for it, are they that brainwashed? Are they that delusional? Maybe.
That's very sad. To me, that's almost borderline elderly abuse. And I got to say this, Dan. I remember my dad. Now, he had Parkinson's. It was a bit different. But when he started to get Parkinson's, it was still early. It wasn't as bad as at the end. But he voted for the Liberal Party of Canada in an election, Justin Trudeau. And I said, why, Dad? And he said, oh, no. They call them the Tories up there, the conservatives. The Tories, he goes, they're going to cut health care. And he goes, poor guy, he's suffering from Parkinson's. The last thing he wants to hear is they're going to cut health care. He's like, they're going to cut health care. I'm like, but Dad, well, when did the Tories ever cut anything? The Conservatives never cut anything. I mean, they're slightly better than the Liberals, so yeah, you should vote for them. But cut health care? They're just trying to scare you, Dad. It's just fear-mongering. Okay, my friends, the best way to listen to the Kuhner Report is on the iHeartRadio app. And now we're launching something brand new. Kuhner's Talk Back Tit for Tat, baby. Just look for the red microphone in the upper right corner of the app. Leave a message for me, for Sandy, and yes, for Mike. Agree, disagree, respond, react, anything goes. Leave your talkbacks anytime during the week, and every Monday in the final segment, we're going to play the best ones on the air. So download the iHeart app, hit that red mic, and join Kuhner's Talkback Tit for Tat. And on today's show, right after the 9:43 break, we're going to play our first one. So you don't want to miss it. 617-266-6868. All right, just very, very, very quick. This is from 781. Jeff, yesterday in my town, they held a huge No Kings rally, one of them holding a big sign, no king, no war, no ICE. Yet they march for no kings in a democracy. And the very same activists defend Iran, where 40,000 protesters were shot dead for doing exactly what they did on Saturday. Bingo. Bingo. This is from 617. Jeff, no kings? Really? This from the party that gave us Obama? Get my health care or pay a fine? Or gave us Joe Biden? Get my vaccine or you lose your job? We're sick and tired of the liberal lies. The Democrats are the ones who act like kings. This is from 508. Jeff, MAGA will be celebrating no kings on July 4th like we did 250 years ago. 917. Jeff, being a liberal isn't just about being stupid. Now, this is so true. It's about showing the world how proud you are to be stupid. See, that's the thing that amazes me about them. Is it's one thing, you just, you're stupid. You just can't help yourself. But no, with them, they want to show everybody, the whole world, how proud they are of being stupid. Okay, and let me just, one last one here. This is from, someone said, Jeff, look at this quote by Argentina's president, Javier Milei. And I want to read it to all of you because it's very profound and I believe very true. This is what the president of Argentina said, Milei. At one point, I thought being a leftist was a mental illness, something that prevented them from seeing the evidence. And then I realized it was a disease of the soul, built on envy, hatred, and resentment. I got to say, that is very true. A disease of the soul. Worse than even than a mental disorder. Built on envy, hatred, and resentment. 617-26. I mean, that to me explains the crowd yesterday, that's for sure. Sorry, on Saturday. That explains that crowd to a T. That, to me, that's the media. That's the Democrats. Hatred, envy, and resentment. A disease of the soul. Ken in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
well,
Ken.
I think you can move on to another topic because Milei said it all.
I mean, he really nailed it on that one, didn't he?
Absolutely. So my primary question in making the call is, what do you got for an over-under? In other words, no protest rallies this calendar year. 2.5 or 3.5? What do you think sounds about right? Because let's remember, why they're doing this, don't you know? Oh, they held number 2 in October of last fall, didn't they? And did the elections go their way? Oh, they certainly thought they did. So what was their mindset ever since October? We got to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again, because that's how we win elections. And guess what? Once you get to number 5, 6, or 7 by October, it kind of doesn't have the same effect. And I think it's going to have the opposite effect. I love it. I mean, Dan's call, and obviously the president's, humor them to death. And let's answer some of your questions. Okay, so what are these people all about? What's their mindset? Virtue signaling. You do know that there is one show that they watch every episode, whether live or on DVD. Oh, that would be The View. Don't you know it? Absolutely. They are totally and completely brainwashed. And you asked, hey, any of the listeners, have you done a protest, been part of a protest? Oh, yes, I have. October of 1980, I was a member, in fact, a officer of my Yukon chapter of the College Republicans, and we went to Hartford, where guess who was joining together? El Grasso and Jimmy Carter. And guess what we did? Reagan, Reagan, Reagan. And we got on TV. Can you believe that? Yeah, that would never happen today. Absolutely. And you have the big question. Why are there no blacks? Oh, easy answer. Now, what were blacks doing in the 50s and 60s? Oh, they were protesting, even bigger protests. And that was a legitimate protest, wasn't it? Civil rights, yeah. And they got something for it, didn't they? So the average black person looking at this and saying, this is illegitimate. They're getting nothing for it. What's the matter with you? They crazy? And of course they're not part of it, because they're not crazy.
Oh, you nailed it. Ken, honestly, I think you really nailed it. Look, when blacks turned out in huge numbers, you're right. It was in the, I know they protested George Floyd and other things, but the really big protests were in the 50s and 60s, and it was real. Segregation was real. Jim Crow was real. A lack of voting rights was real. Separate water fountains and all of that. It was all real. Separate lunch counters right at the back of the bus. That was all real. So they were protesting a real oppression, and they were protesting something that was real. And it worked. I mean, their protests were so big and so popular, and so many other people began to join them, and it rallied so many people. It stirred the conscience of the country, and it worked, and it achieved something very, very tangible. Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. I agree with you. I think most black people look at this and they go, get a life. Like, are you serious? No, if we really had a king, you'd all be dead right now. You wouldn't get on that stage so confidently. No fear of reprisal. No, he won the election. He won it just, 13, 14 months ago. You just want to block him and prevent him from doing what he said he's going to do. This is no better than a stupid temper tantrum. That's all. That's all this is. So I think they look at this and I got to say, Ken, I think if you polled most black people like you poll most Americans, they would say, if you're going to protest, I don't know what there is to protest. You vote in November. That's how you really protest, by voting. But if you're going to protest, okay, protest high gas prices. Okay, at least that's real. Or high inflation or higher inflation. Okay, that's real. Or violent, illegal, criminal, aliens murdering people like Sheridan Gorman. That's real. But you're going to protest what? That Trump won? That this guy's a king when he's the exact opposite? What, to abolish ICE? So what, flood the country with more illegals? Which, by the way, hurts the whole country, don't get me wrong. but it hurts minorities disproportionately. Okay, I just want to say, to me, the mother of all points, as Saddam would have put it, regarding this whole No Kings movement. The very people, and I know many of them are paid. In fact, I'm looking at a picture right now, a video somebody sent me, a member of Kuhner country out on the West Coast, saying, Jeff, this was in Los Angeles on Saturday. So there was a huge protest, by the way, descended into a riot later that night. But, let that go. And a couple blocks away from where the protest was, it is a fleet of buses. And nice buses, charter buses, beautiful buses. And it's one after another, after another, after another. It's like an armada of buses. And the point that, this Kuhner country listener was making is, this is very well funded. This is very well organized. I mean, they're bringing people from all over California. So clearly, there's a lot of money and a lot of donors, anti-Trump donors, who are doing everything they can to try to subvert his presidency from within and are driving this movement and these so-called protests. Now, what is amazing to me is that this is coming from the very same Democrats, the very same communists, the very same leftists who repeatedly tried to have Donald Trump jailed, put him behind bars, who succeeded in getting him shot and nearly killed, who took every possible opportunity to bar him, if you remember, from the ballot in the 2024 election. They weren't even going to let him run. They were going to literally ban him from being on the ballot. The same people who, with the FBI, the CIA, with the full support of the media, tried to sabotage and undermine Trump's first term by propagating one of the biggest conspiracy theories in human history, the Russia collusion hoax. The same people, when you think about it, who rely on these partisan, left-wing, rogue judges in district courts to constantly block and frustrate the will of tens and tens of millions of voters, who, as I speak to you now, are already threatening, and I'm not talking the idiots on the streets, I'm talking Schumer, Jeffries, Bernie, AOC, Mamdani, the commanding heights of the Democratic Party, are saying they want to put Trump in jail, they want to put his cabinet in jail, they want to put countless conservatives and Trump supporters in business, in the media, in the private sector. Anybody who they think was prominent in helping Trump to win power in 2024, they want them in jail should they win in 2028. They're coming out and saying, we have an enemies list. And if you're on that list, we're going to put you behind bars. And as I said, whether it's in LA or in Portland or in New York or here in Boston, openly ally themselves with the Communist Party of the United States, waving red hammer and sickle flags, chanting there's only one solution, communist revolution. And you're lecturing us about no kings? You're lecturing us about quote-unquote tyranny and dictatorship? Come on. Come on, let's get serious. Come on. The only people that are a mortal enemy of freedom is you. The only people that are the enemy of our republic is you. The only people that are, quote, anti-democracy, unquote, are you. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mike in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for taking my call.
My pleasure.
We got to stop complaining, and we got to get out there. I go out there every once in a while in Wakefield. I'm alone. And, you know, some of these people, you can't talk to them. They're beyond help. You know, I mean, it seems to me in Boston and all these liberal states, they're winning. They're convincing people that Donald Trump is the enemy. No, they're the enemy. Them and the Democratic Party, which is communist, socialist, Marxist. I mean, we got to get out there. We got to have some rallies. We got to counter what they're doing. They're very strong. Some of them are getting paid. Some of them are not. Some of them got issues, mental issues. You know, we got to do something.
Mike, I want to ask you, when you encounter these people, and I agree with you, some of them clearly have mental health issues, but, you know, I'm not talking about those. But when you meet others, look, these are, you know, as someone said, you know, like my doctor, my nurse, I hate to say it, but yeah, I have she's a brilliant eye doctor. I mean, she's brilliant, but it's TDS. It really is Trump derangement syndrome. And I'm like, just all of your critical faculties are gone. You know, her ability to be objective, to look at evidence, to be reasonable. It's like this emotion, this blind hatred and emotion just takes over. How do you explain the fact that you have doctors, you have nurses, engineers, architects? I could go right down the list. You know, professional, accomplished people, educated, you know, and in their job are very good. And then when it comes to Donald Trump, they sound like crazy people. They just become utterly unhinged. And I'm not saying don't be critical. I mean, sure, every president makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But, you know, I never say, well, that's a reasoned criticism. You know, I never say, okay, I mean, I don't agree, but okay, that's a, you know, well thought out, rational argument. It's emotion, it's hate, it's misinformation, then more hate. I mean, when you listen to them talk, I'm like, can't you hear yourself? You can't string two sentences together before you start foaming at the mouth. What do you think accounts for this, Mike? Otherwise, very successful, highly educated, you know, accomplished people in the professions. And yet, you topic of Donald Trump, and they lose their minds. They go berserk. What say you?
I would say a lot of them are godless people. A lot of them are very hateful. They're very hateful people. They're very lonely. They feel as though that they're do-gooders. They've done their job for the 45 minutes to an hour and a half to get out there. You know, that's what I feel they are.
Oh, that's almost like a political religion. It's almost like going to mass. In other words, I've done my moral duty somehow, like to the good of the universe, by going out here and yelling and screaming and chanting and raging and, you know, and just complaining about Trump. That's a very interesting point, Mike. Very interesting. 617. Thank you for that call, Mike. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me throw this log on the fire. Why? Okay, it's overwhelmingly elderly, older, not completely, but overwhelmingly. It's clearly overwhelmingly white. That there's no question. But it's not just liberal whites, older liberal whites. It's heavily women. I'm not saying it's only women. That's not true. You know, Foxborough, there were men, but it was 70-30 women, maybe 65-35. But you can tell it's more women than men. I mean, it's just very clear. So what I want to ask all of you is, why is it in particular the majority of these people that go to these No Kings rallies, are elderly, white, left-wing, feminist women in their 70s and 80s. I mean, what's your theory on that? I know there are men that go there. I get it. So it's overwhelmingly white. But for whatever reason, are there that many angry elderly women out there? Like left-wing liberal women? And what's driving this? Is it they're the victims of radical feminism? You know, Gloria Steinem famously said in the 70s, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. And she ended up regretting that because she said she grew up, she never got married. You know, when she got older and older, she never had a family, and she ended up being completely alone. Like, she ended up lonely. Well, obviously, you're rejecting men. So she said she ended up being very lonely and ended up being very bitter and frustrated. Well, you have no one to blame but yourself. But my question is, what do you think is driving liberal, elderly, white women? And I mean, they're it's just rage and anger, and it's a hate fest. You know, this kind of bile and bitterness. What do you think is driving this? I'm just curious. 6-1. It's like one of the texters said. Remember, Grandma used to have baking cookies, and that Grandpa was on the couch or whatever, the chair, reading the newspaper or doing the crossword puzzle, and couldn't wait to see you and see the grandkids, and you do things together as a family. Now, at least for the moonbats, on the liberal side, on the left, for the leftists, those days are long gone. They're long gone. Now it's protest signs and hate Donald Trump. Hate him. I mean, hate him with a passion. As if he raped their wives, as if they raped their daughters or granddaughters. I mean, they hate him. Absolutely loathe him. Steve in Townsend. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. This no king protest, it's a bunch of crap. It's all people that are communists and they hate America. If they hate America, why don't they just leave? I mean, I don't understand why they're still here, Donald Trump's the president. He's doing a great job, And then you get Maura Healey up there screaming like a lunatic. She's a nut job, Mike Minogue has to win. He's the only one that can beat her,
Mike, Steve, forgive me. You mentioned Mike Minogue, so sorry, that's why I mentioned Mike. Steve, let me just play for people who are tuning in a little bit later. I know I played it earlier in the show, but this is Healy at the Boston Common at the No Kings rally. Now, just listen to her. She's going on about Trump being a dictator, Trump being an authoritarian, Trump being a mortal threat to our so-called democracy. And then she goes on about ICE and how she wants to block ICE, abolish ICE, prevent ICE from arresting any single illegal alien in our state. Roll cut 18A, Mike.
I'm keeping ICE out of our schools, our daycare centers, our hospitals, our courthouses. And they're not going to be on state property. And don't even think about building a detention center here.
Yeah, or else what? What are you going to do? Shoot us? Like, what are you going to do? Start a civil war? But, Steve, you're right. She sounds unhinged. She doesn't sound mentally well. Angry. Very angry. And I have to say this. She's very representative of most of the people in the crowd. Now, she's maybe a tad younger. I don't know how old she is, what, her 50s or 60s, whatever Healy is. But so maybe a little younger. But this is a bitter, left-wing woman, single woman. And just look at her. I mean, you want to talk about hate. That's all it is hate. And I know she wants to position herself for 2028. So everybody's trying to out-moonbat one another now. So it's like, well, we're going to defund ICE. No, we're going to abolish ICE. Okay, no, we're going to end ICE. Well, we're going to reopen the borders. Now, I don't know if you heard this. Now, watch, it's becoming more and more prevalent. Many more Democrats in Congress are now calling for reparations for illegal aliens. It's not even reparations anymore for the descendants of slaves. Now, I'm telling you, it's reparations for illegals. Now, you watch. It's going to take about another year. It's like a bidding war. You watch. Newsom will pick it up. Then Pritzker will pick it up. Then Healy will pick it up. Then Kamala Harris will pick it up. Then AOC will pick it up. Mamdani will push it from day one. And before you know it, they're going to be running in 2028 that we all have to pay reparations to illegals, which, by the way, would completely bankrupt us. Okay, but let that go. Just let that go. So, Steve, my question to you, she sounds like a crazy woman. Why are liberal women like her, in particular, losing their minds over Donald Trump? Do you have a theory on that?
Jeff, it's mental illness. That's the problem. These people never got treated, and now it's coming out, you know? That's
Steve,
what I think. You know?
Is this a vote winner? I know Massachusetts is a deep blue state, and you said, Minogue's got to win the primary, and Minogue's got to beat her in November. So, look, I hear you. Healy has got to be defeated, no question. But, when they hear their governor sound like an absolute lunatic and basically saying, abolish ICE, illegals now, illegals forever. And I don't care how dangerous, how violent they are, murderers, rapists, gangbangers, drug dealers, we want them in our schools. We want illegals in our hospitals, illegals in our court system so they can't even be deported, illegals everywhere. Is this a vote winner? I mean, are Moonbats going to vote for this in November? I mean, do Democrats have a death wish? What say you, Steve?
It's only common sense. I mean, my 5-year-old niece could figure this out. You know what I mean? Another thing, I don't understand how she's not arrested. Obstruction of justice, harboring these illegals. That's a federal crime, and she should be arrested for that.
Amen. Amen. Where's Pam Bondi? Where's Kash Patel? Where's Tom Homan? I've been asking that now, and she said it again. And I'll tell you, you're right. Everything what you said is right. But the one that's particularly egregious is when she said, not in our court systems. So you have an illegal alien convicted of murder or, molesting a child or a notorious drug trafficker or a sex trafficker, okay, or a pedophile, and you're preventing ICE from arresting that person? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Steve, thank you very much for that call. They've now become the party of gangbangers, murderers, criminals, and rapists. How do you win? This is no longer the left. I'm not talking, hey, Jeff, I like Denmark or Sweden, and I want, big government programs and, a social democracy. You're talking now for the end of your borders, being overrun by criminal, violent illegals, and you're defending gangbangers, pedophiles, and rapists. How do you really? I'm like, who votes for this? 617-266-6868. Lee in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Lee, and welcome.
Jeff, and thank you for taking my call once again.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I have 4 points to make. The first one, in answer to you, why mostly women? I'll tell you. Let me preface this. What I saw was signs saying draft dodger and all that. I challenge anyone who stood out there holding a sign that said draft dodger and anyone else in the crowd in Boston and across the country to state that they actually served in our military. My guess is that those were all flower children of the 60s. And by the way, I am a baby boomer. I am one of those quote-unquote old people, and I take offense to that because I'm a conservative. And someone said to me, you know, for somebody your age, you're pretty technical. You know how to operate a computer and work that cell phone. There are so many of us out here. But these people have their heads buried in the sand of the 60s. And notice, no 20-somethings out there. They're out there making a living. You don't see any 20-somethings. I saw a woman with kids in a stroller who was probably in her 30s, you know, maybe early 30s, mid-30s, with a...
Lee, can you hang on, please? We're up against a hard break. Okay, let's go right back to Lee in Waltham. Lee, thanks for holding, and welcome.
Thank you. Could I throw something else out there, Jeff?
Yes.
These old people, like me, these old people that are out there, they were brought up by the greatest generation. Think about that. Think about that. Those people my age that are out there protesting against imaginary kings and every single issue that's in the news, and they, you know, just slant everything to their agenda. The question is, to every listener out there, is why do you think that is? These people were brought up by the greatest generation of our time, and they're out there when they could be with their grandchildren or their children or volunteering or just enjoying a Saturday morning, and they're out there for hours just with homemade signs or the signs that are paid for by you-know-who and company. That's what I'd like to throw out there. I don't get it. I don't get it. My father was in the South Pacific in World War II, came back with shrapnel in his neck, okay, had malaria. What the hell is wrong with these old crotchety people that are out there and accomplish nothing? Nothing. They have accomplished nothing. I ask any listener, what have they accomplished? They didn't woke me. They didn't affect anybody else. I am a Kennedy Democrat. I was a Democrat back in the day when it meant something to be a Democrat. Then I was an independent. Now I'm a Republican, a proud Republican. Do I think the Republican Party needs work? Absolutely. But Biden made me switch from an independent to a Republican. Thank you, President Biden.
Well, Lee, forgive me, Lee, I think you hit the nail right on the head. You know, the Democratic Party has become so radicalized. It's so extreme. It is so far to the left. It's like, you know, it's like it's the Bolshevik Party of the United States. And so you have to ask yourself, how do these children, brought up, as you put it, rightly by the greatest generation who survived the Great Depression, many of them whose parents, fathers fought in World War II, and, raised them right and raised them in a much better country than what we have today. And yet they're espousing the very ideals, the very sick ideas that we fought the whole Cold War to defeat. It just boggles the mind. And look, all I can say is this, Lee. We have a friend of ours, typical. I think she went to the No Kings rally in Foxborough on the weekend. And I have to say this, very nice woman. I'm telling you, really, very nice woman. My kids love her. She runs a kind of a daycare for kids. She's retired now, but Astrid and Ava were, they would go and see her. She would take care of them if Grace had to go somewhere. So she was very good at what she did. But when it comes to Donald Trump, she loses her mind. And the only explanation I have, we took her out for lunch, and we just, no debate, no arguing, and I just asked her some questions. And she's been divorced twice. She never remarried after her second divorce. But what was very clear to me and Grace is that for whatever reason, Trump has replaced her two ex-husbands. Everything she loathes about her two ex-husbands, and she talked about them, how they were domineering, how they were chauvinistic, how they cheated on her, how, they were very cavalier and having affairs, and eventually both of them left her for another woman. So when she sees Trump on his third wife with two divorces, and the way he dresses and the way he talks and some of the jokes that he makes, she says, she told me, he reminds me of my two ex-husbands. And it's almost as if the hatred that she now has or had for her two exes have now been transposed onto Trump. And Grace made the point to me. She said, Jeff, you're a man, you don't see this. But I'm telling you, there are millions and millions and millions of women, older women, liberal women, like our friend, who have the exact same emotions. And they hate Trump for the same reasons that she does. Because when she looks at Trump, it's not rational. But when she looks at Trump, she sees her ex, or in this case, her two exes. And I think that explains a lot of the emotional, the anger, the hatred, the bitterness, the irrationality. Because when I was pressing her, okay, but what has Trump done what has he done that has earned this kind of animus? I could tell you you'd ask me about Biden, I can list you example after example, reason after reason after reason. But she can't give me anything. And then I remember even under Biden, just because she was so afraid of Trump coming back, she's like, what inflation? I'm like, what do you mean, what inflation? You don't go for, like gas? No, my gas hasn't gone up. Like, which gas station I want to use that gas station. What gas station do you use? My groceries haven't gone up. My bills haven't gone up. Everyone else's bills have. So you can see she's deluding herself into trying to justify that things are good under Biden because she didn't want Trump to come back to power. So she's almost contorting reality in her own mind. It's very scary. Okay, coming up after the break. So after this break, it'll be our first Kuhner tit for tat. So I hope all of you can join us for that. This is from 617. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470. 70470. Jeff, Robert De Niro, who participated in the No Kings rally in New York City over the weekend, gave an interview to the ACLU, and infected by a Trump-induced rabies virus that seems to attack the brain like syphilis, spoke about what else? Trump. And you should have heard him ranting and raving about how evil and dangerous Trump is. Well, No Kings is funded by George Soros. In fact, on their page is a link to the ACLU. Is De Niro getting paid to openly hate our president? Probably. As I said to someone earlier, he doesn't do anything without getting a buck. He's all about being, he's all about a buck. That's what De Niro ultimately is all about. But, I like that phrase. He does sound like someone induced with rabies, like a virus, and it attacks the brain. It's a Trump-induced rabies virus. But you see him. He's compulsive. He can't stop talking. He's foaming at the mouth. He's swearing, screaming, hollering, swearing some more. He looks like he looks mad. like a mad dog with rabies. And it's just Trump, 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 Trump. He can't stop himself. So I think part of it is he's not well in the head. And I think part of it is he's being paid. So, just my honest opinion. 617-266-6868. Anthony in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Well, as always, Jeff, thank you for having me. I've never done this ever when I've called you, but I'm opening my call with a question for you. If somebody on your street was known as a nutbag and then they threatened to kill you, would you take them serious or would you say they're just a joke?
No, I take them very serious.
Okay, so this is the problem with the Republican Party. We have neighbors that are threatening to kill our movement, our party, everything to do with us, and we're taking them as a joke, all the way leading up to the president. The president took their big, massive rally yesterday and considered it as a joke. And I'm telling you right now, we're going to lose, and we're going to lose big unless we start taking these people serious and stop calling them names and start pointing out the policies that we present and try to prove that our policies are better than theirs. Because, Jeff, you want to know what's inspiring all these 70 and 80-year-old women? They don't like being called a joke. Nobody likes being called a joke. And if somebody calls me a joke, I do even more, and it enrages me even more to try to prove them wrong. So this is the problem that our party's facing right now, is we're considering our enemy as a joke.
Anthony, I'm just curious, where do you think this hatred is coming from so many of these? Again, these are liberals, they're not conservatives, but liberal, elderly, white people. It's so overwhelmingly white. I mean, everybody notices it. And some men, but especially women. I know you're saying no one likes to be called a joke. I hear you. But before they were even called a joke, I mean, I can go on and on. You've got people walking up to reporters saying, I'm going to effing kill you if they report on, the No Kings rally, or if they see a Trump supporter. You're talking about people in their 80s. And they're like, I'm going to effing kill you, or someone needs to kill Trump, or, hang him, or shoot him, or assassinate him. I mean, you've got to see the bloodlust. Where's all this coming from? I mean, this is not some crazy 19-year-old college kid who's out of control. These are grandparents, even great-grandparents, people who have been retired for a long time, who are supposed to be, like elderly people. They embody wisdom and experience and moderation and intelligence. And instead, I mean, it's like a bloodlust. Where does this come from? Where does all of this hatred, fanatical, rabid rage, where is all this coming from, Anthony?
Like you, I'm a parent, and I'm sorry, but you're wrong. It's not just that this rally might have been that, but this has been going on for 30 years now, 40 years now. And as a parent, that if you don't punish your children for doing wrong, the behavior gets worse and worse and worse. And I'm sorry, but we cannot consider these people a joke. I think back to your trailer that you lead in with Tulsi Gabbard. The only joke that we have in this country is the Republican Party, because Tulsi Gabbard laid out all that evidence and nothing was done about it. So there's been no punishment, so there's going to be no change of behavior. So you can say that this rally was 80 and 70-year-olds, but what about the one where they were blocking the college campuses for the Muslims that were protesting Palestine? Those weren't 80-year-olds. I mean, there was some 80-year-olds in there.
That's very true. That's very true.
In the riots in California, back when Rodney King was killed, there was people that stomped people to death and nobody got punished for it. I mean, this behavior has been going on in our country for as long as I've been an adult. And nobody on the Republican side, which I was a Republican for 38 years, but I unenrolled because you're not doing anything. And you know what's the sad part, Jeff? Is they've already shown you by locking up Bannon and locking up Navarro that they're willing to lock us up, okay? And now they're threatening you to punish you yet again, and we're supposedly in the majority, and we're not punishing the people that are doing anything wrong. Obama right now should be on trial and going to jail. We know for a fact that he used the FBI and the CIA to spy on a candidate for president and then a sitting president, and what was done about it?
Nothing.
Absolutely
nothing.
You can.
And you could just go right down the whole list. No, Anthony, you're completely right. And I think what we don't realize is we think, well, they just went after Trump, or they just went after Navarro, or they just went after Bannon. And I'm saying just like in quotes. Yeah, that was then. That's now the appetizer. What they realize is they have to start coming after us. And they're saying it openly. Susan Rice is saying it. Pritzker is saying it. AOC is saying it. Bernie's saying it. Mamdani's saying it. They're all saying it. They're saying, no, our mistake was we just focused on a few leaders. Now we're going to go after administration officials. We're going to go after media people. We're going to go after businesses. We're going to go after private citizens. We're going to go after them. We're going to professionally destroy them. And if possible, send them to jail over nothing. We're going to make up crimes to send them to prison. So I'm not trying to, frighten people. I'm just telling you, listen to them. And when they wave a hammer and sickle, and when they say we're going to abolish ICE, and, no borders, no ICE, no kings, they mean it. Or when they chant, the only solution is a communist revolution. They're not saying this for the hell of it. And we have to realize the Democrats are going for our throat. Okay, my friends, let's check in with you. It's finally here. Talk back, tit for tat. This is a chance for Kuhner Country to speak directly, thoughtful, funny, passionate. We've gathered your best messages, and they're coming up right now.
Democrats just treat TSA agents like criminal illegal aliens. They'll get paid, no problem.
We need to hold these politicians accountable. They are never held accountable for their dastardly deeds, and they're committing dastardly deeds against us all the time.
Yeah, this message is for Mike. Knock it off. Stop cutting off the Kuhner man. I want to hear what he says. Stop being a jerk.
He's calling all of us unpatriotic? Okay? I don't get this. Thousands of us went over there the first time, and we're done with these forever wars.
Shut the up. Pam Bondi has done more than you realize. I am so sick of you mother degrading her.
Why are you playing Bruce Springsteen? He sucks. He doesn't like Trump. He's been very degrading. Get him off your station.
You're dividing us. Goodbye.
Okay, my friends, this is the first one that we've ever done. We're going to do it every Monday. So the best way to listen to the Kuhner Report is on the iHeartRadio app. And now we're launching something brand new. You just heard it. Kuhner's Talkback Tit for Tat. Just look for the red microphone in the upper right-hand corner of the app and leave a message for me, for Sandy, or as you just heard, for Mike. Agree, disagree, respond, react, anything. Leave your talkbacks anytime during the week, and every Monday in the final segment, we'll play the best ones on the air. So download the iHeart app, hit that red mic, and join Kuhner's Talkback, tit for tat, baby. Tom in Lowell. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and for Easter season, all blessings and peace be with you and your family.
Thank you. All the best to you and your family. Tom, what do you make of this No Kings movement? The media says it's a force to be reckoned with. Do you agree?
It is a force to be reckoned with. I've been listening since I got. By the way, I was in an MRI scan for at Lowell General. I listened to you from 6 to 6:30, and I'm sorry I was in this long tube confined in my own mind for a while. But three things since I've been listening since. I like where Lee was going about, the women, and I also think about the ex-husband thing. There's also small elements, especially the younger people, of this my body, my choice element to this going on. But I want to bring up one other thing, and this is what I was thinking. When you started off in the earlier segment, you mentioned the three pillars of these No Kings protests. You had Islamist representation out there, you had the LGBTQIA, and you had the communist element in it. I fail to see in any type of mental Venn diagram where in practice down the road where any of these three groups are actually going to get together and have common any type of common standing. I mean, Islamists don't like LGBTQIA. Communists don't like religion at all. I just don't. I know they co-opted each other for gain of influence, but I don't see how this thing could ever last in practice.
Oh, you're completely right. I mean, they're going to devour each other.
I may have missed that comment.
No. You're absolutely right. No, you're completely right. Look, they're going to devour each other. There's no question. Look, Islamists can't coexist with communists. They can't coexist with LGBTQ, never mind transgenderism. That's complete anathema to these Islamists. And frankly, most communists aren't big on, LGBTQ. So the whole thing is going to never mind fall apart. They're going to start knifing each other. What's holding them together, it's not just hatred of Trump. It's hatred for America and hatred for the West. And this is what they do. People, I'll just give you a quick example. When the Ayatollah Khamenei came to power in 1979, people forget this. He was also in alliance with secular socialists. Many of those students that took over our embassy were socialists. They were literally communist-inspired socialists. They were, atheistic. And, in fact, Khomeini had to share power with them for about a year or two. But what did he do? He wiped them out. And he killed all the socialists and put them all in prison. And they all ended up saying, boy, this guy's even worse than the Shah that we overthrew. So my point is, yeah, Mamdani knows this, but what Mamdani is telling his people behind closed doors, don't worry, we'll take care of the trans people and the commies afterwards. We're going to run the show. The commies say, like Antifa, we'll take care of them. We're going to run the show. The trans people say, don't worry, we'll take care of these Islamist savages. We'll run the show. So what they're planning on is once they take over power, then they'll fight amongst themselves to see who actually runs everything.